Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Your Gray Matters One Take because life has no rehearsal. Today, I'm bringing one of the most interesting guys. Uh, what a really interesting guy you're going to meet. I mean, like, get this. So, Todd Amelung, I'm pronouncing it hopefully right, began as an artist in San Francisco, as a sculptor. He learned welding. From there, he started building furniture, of all things, in San Francisco. Moves to Mexico, builds more furniture in Monterrey, Mexico, then comes back into the US, does more welding. They create furniture, wood furniture, aluminum furniture. Then all of a sudden, he gets into boats. You're seeing a guy who has a captain's license, and he went from an artist doing welding in San Francisco to buying, selling, flipping, and delivering boats from the Caribbean to the northeast of the United States. I have been told by people I trust that he had this beautiful catamaran, and that's what he does. So, from artist to captain, boats, we have Todd over here. And Todd, thank you very much for joining us. I
Thanks
know
for
it
having
took
me,
some
Marcel.
convincing, and I'm very glad you got convinced.
Thank you.
So let's begin with the obvious one. I mean, you've had a very interesting life, many pivots. I mean, from artist to captain, delivering boats. Meaning, you've had a lot of moments in your life where you had to make decisions. Now, tell us more. I don't know, one or two of those decisive moments that really stick to your mind.
Sure. Well, I started when I started designing furniture in San Francisco with a partner, Pepe Urbano Usan, and we were partners for 10 years in this business. Started out just sort of finding scrap metal and turning it into sculpture, and then eventually doing more sort of focused and disciplined design, and started doing trade shows in New York City with the contemporary furniture. And at some point, Pepe went on to do some um, uh, work in India with documentaries. And I, in theory, bought the business out from him, and I moved the factory from San Francisco to Monterrey, Mexico. This turned out to be a really poor decision because the infrastructure and the cash we needed to get really the ball rolling in Mexico didn't exist. So it was just a lot of patchwork, and we weren't prepared to overcome the difficulties there. One of the things that was also happening in the furniture and design business at that time, that was the age of like Philippe Starck and lots of
Oh,
polished aluminum and there's sort of like a brutalist modernism. I don't know if you recall, they used to have like cow hides
yes.
and all kinds of, it was modern primitive was really what. And so we were a little bit involved. We were sort of in that movement, and everything sort of changed very quickly, almost as soon as we got to Mexico, where that everything went to minimalist and mid-century, and we were sort of caught in the middle of that. At the same time, manufacturing moved to China very decisively. A lot of the designers that were the price points started going down precipitously. So clients like Crate and Barrel, Z Gallery, and people that we that were our bigger clients started finding cheaper and cheaper ways to do it, and it just didn't make sense for us. So this big move that we made ended up being a dead end, and at that point I closed the factory very difficultly. I closed the factory and I came to Miami and just kept a shop for myself. Started doing more sort of one-off and nightclubs and special projects interiors for architects. So it was just me and a couple of people, and we just sort of worked locally and made it more of like a small town. You know, we adapted our ambitions and did
Yeah,
still did
well,
some nice work.
it isn't bad at
Um,
all. I mean, like I've met two people who basically have done pretty much that in different fields. One of them is Jude Papaloco, and he is an artist in Little Haiti. I actually
yeah,
have
I
a
know him.
figure. Oh, you know Jude? Okay, great.
Sure.
So he painted the interior of one of those clubs in Ocean Drive, the one that's really famous that goes on forever and ever and ever. And then he also
Okay.
created tables. You know, his tables are beautiful. I wish I could afford them, but I can't. Actually, when you were making furniture, my furniture was minimalist, not by design, but by need.
Right.
100% was from the door store. So,
Okay. Sure. Sure.
that was what I could
Yeah.
afford in those
Yeah.
days.
2x4s and doors.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of thing. No, I mean like sofas that were like $300, that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So, and then the other one is Natalia Kolchak, and she does really beautiful interiors, handmade, like murals and all of that. And again, began kind of probably bigger, then concentrated a lot on clubs. And well, she does a lot of millionaire mansions, who want
Right.
like a wall. But it seems to be like a very Miami thing, doing clubs, because of course we have tons of clubs in
Right.
Miami. And you and I were talking about one that was infamous, of course, Churchill's.
Right. They
Yeah,
never hired a designer.
never, ever. They also never hired a cleaner. I mean, those bathrooms.
That was the, yeah.
Yeah, how many bands have taken pictures of themselves in the
In the,
bathroom?
yeah. When you went to Churchill's, you took a picture of the bathroom.
Yeah.
It
Actually, we
reminded
had a
me
joke.
of the scene in Train Spotting.
Yes, absolutely. That is
It
very
was
true.
maybe filmed in Churchill's.
Yeah. So the running joke, of course, when COVID came around was that had you ever been in a bathroom in Churchill's, you were immune to COVID. You
Yeah.
were immune to everything. I mean, you had
Sure.
all the
Sure.
antibodies.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting transition because boats are really specialized. I mean, I've never owned one, but I've had friends with yachts and stuff. And
Right.
it's an interesting world, especially you have a captain's license, which is not something easy. You have to learn many other disciplines that are not necessarily artistic.
Yeah.
One of them that sticks to my head is navigating by the stars. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, one of my two best friends in life, had a captain's license. And I remember sailing from Italy. We had a yacht, Arriva Super America,
Okay.
from Italy to Palma de Mallorca. And his dad asked him, like, navigate by the stars. So Juan looks around. I don't know any of the stars. He opens the book and he goes, yeah, those are the stars I know. It's a difficult test. How
Sure.
do you get into that?
So another big transition for me, when Hurricane Wilma came around, I was in the early stages of a divorce, and I found a small catamaran that was damaged, and I had a dear friend, Rafe Pomeroy, who helped me put this boat back together. So it had a couple holes in the hull, and the price was right, and it was hauled out far west into from Fort Lauderdale, out in some funky little marina. And he taught me how to use fiberglass, and we put this boat back together, literally with the mast tied to the top of it. I uh, navigated it from this little canal out to the Atlantic and then on down to Miami, where I got the mast put on and sort of pieced it together and ended up living on that boat. Very wonderful experience. And I have there's a lot of stories of where that boat went, and it was sort of a party boat and a home base at the same time, and ended up doing a lot of charters. At the same time, I was still in the furniture um, design business when Hurricane Irma came. I had friends in the British Virgin Islands, and I had been following the news. There were thousands of catamarans damaged in that storm. And so a couple days after Hurricane Irma, I grabbed a knapsack and I got on a plane and managed to sort of sneak in. Um, the island had been closed, but I managed to get in and started helping out and looking around, and ended up buying a boat and selling it, and sort of repeating that process for about 2.5 years. So it's sort of get one boat, fix it, get a slightly better one, fix it. And the reconstruction process lasted several years, and eventually sailed home on a nice catamaran that I had put together, painstakingly put together, wearing a lot of paper suits and um, breathing a lot of terrible stuff, but ended up back in Miami. And just after arriving back, Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas. And one of the insurance uh, agents that I had become friendly with in the British Virgin Islands called me and asked me to get him into the Bahamas because the airport was wiped out and there's no way in. So literally, again, 3 days after Dorian, I was in the Bahamas doing work with the insurance companies, and ended up sort of repeating the whole process.
Wow,
So, and ended
that's
up with
pretty
a,
amazing.
with a big boat and a very big project that took me about 2.5 years to put together, and then use that boat. Yeah, just sailed it up to Maine in the summers to get away from the hurricanes, and for 2 years I went up there went up and worked on the boat until it was, what do they say, in Bristol condition. So,
Wow.
and then a large catamaran is basically like having two boats.
Yes.
You have two engines, two hulls, two sets of problems: bathrooms, air conditioners. It's a big responsibility, and it gets quite expensive as you go on. So I sold that boat, and now I'm sort of turning my attention back to artwork, and still dabbling, and still have a boat over in the Bahamas that I'm putting back together, but um, focusing more as the years go by on doing some artwork, and maybe making some inroads into the art world.
Yeah, I saw some
Um,
of your work in South Miami in an exhibit.
oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's the artwork. The art world in Miami is difficult. It is very difficult. I don't like a lot of people complain about it. I know Jude, for example, since we both know him. Jude has been an artist for like 700 years. I mean,
yeah,
that guy, he's never been anything but an artist. And
sure,
yet he was telling me, I went to see him in the new place he's got near the north of Midtown, like under the underpass kind of thing. He's got like a little place there. So I went to see him, and he was telling me how difficult it is. The rents went up. I remember I was part of a gallery called the Gray Area in Wynwood, and in one single year, the rent for the gallery went up from 4,000 a month to 8,000, then to sixteen
sure,
thousand, then to 24,000.
yeah,
So Jude's
yeah,
space was the same thing. I mean, like all of a sudden, it was triple.
yeah. The artists prepare the neighborhoods for the developers is the way it works.
Yeah.
And it's right now. I mean, I saw it happen in Wynwood. I've had spaces in all of these places, and you go from, they just get it ready for the next developer, and now that's happening, not necessarily in a positive way in Little Haiti. Um, the affordable spaces that are there. So Miami's not a town that's very nice to its artists when you compare it to a city like Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York, where there's a vibrant community of artists that can pay their rent and
Yeah.
feed themselves. Miami is typically a place where a lot of the good artists have to ship out to cities that are more receptive.
Yeah.
So
Look
I
at
think
David Macaulay.
Miami's it's an okay place to do the work, but I don't think the market is very
No, it's very
nice.
difficult. So talking about that, one of the things I want to also talk about briefly is, even though we skirted it, what changed? I think Miami, in that sense, you and I were talking about, there's no good live music venues anymore. Churchill's closed, La Rosa's closed, El Punto
Right,
closed. In my mind, there's only Bar Nancy and Kill Your Idol. So
right.
in Miami, and then of course it's moved north. Fort Lauderdale has more or less a scene with the Poor House, but I think West Palm Beach is the one that is really like coming up, with Respectable Street and stuff
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
that. But of course, it's a 2 hour drive from where I live, so I never go because it's a
This
four
is
hour
sort of
drive.
like the artists. They just keep
Yeah,
getting chased northward.
yeah.
Um,
It's been one of those changes in Miami. I don't know. I thought it was more welcoming at some point than now. It has changed.
it definitely feels that way, and I think also the audience has changed. The character of Miami is quite different than it was. I moved here 28 years ago, 27 years ago, whenever 1997 was, and it was a different feel. Today, I feel it's much more electronic. It's much more, clubby. Um, I feel that, like, they refer to Wynwood as, the art neighborhood. And there's, besides the people that get invited to do murals, there's absolutely nothing art
Right.
inspired about Wynwood. It's just a commercial, it's a mall, with paintings on the wall, but there's nothing that feels artistic. There's no club that I've been to that isn't just a sort of a mill for getting sort of bridge and tunnel people through the door. But
Yeah. I've suffered that. I think we have that in common a lot. Where Because I came to Miami for the first time in 1980. After that, I moved all over the place. So I haven't really lived all of the time in Miami. But then when you come back, you find those changes. Just a small one, for example. I remember, I don't know, 19, maybe 82, 83. We're driving in the Grove, my wife and I, and we had, like the lowest of the lows. We had a Bobcat, a Mercury Bobcat, which was the
okay,
luxury edition of the Ford Pinto.
I remember that car. So,
Yeah, that was all we could afford. I mean, that car cost $4,000 new, and I paid cash, by the way. Like, here, have some cash. And all of a sudden, we get stopped in the middle of Coconut Grove, towards the Bahamian black area of the Grove, and it was the Goombay Festival, and we knew nothing about it. And it was
oh wow,
absolutely fantastic. We stopped the
yeah,
car, we joined the crowds. It felt amazing. And then you would see real Bahamian bands and, the whole hood. That died.
sure, yeah,
Done. Uh, and I
yeah.
went to every single, I went to, not every single Goombay, but I went to like a bunch of them, and I have pictures and everything. That died. Churchill's, I was mentioning to you, I had been on stage with like 125 bands in 2 years.
Right.
It died. You go
Yeah,
there, and you were there a few days ago. I was there like
yeah.
a few weeks ago, and it's beautiful.
I tell you, my studio right now is in Little Haiti, and the battle is ongoing. There's literally Sunny's Steakhouse, which is now considered one of the best and probably one of the most expensive restaurants in Miami. Literally, people pushing shopping carts and sleeping in them 20 feet away. Um,
I didn't know your study or your studio was in Little Haiti. Send me the address later. I'll go
I
visit,
will. I
and
will.
and I'll go visit the Santerias around it with my camera before
Yeah,
they die.
there's some great little restaurants still down there, and there's still a pulse.
Yeah,
But People get tired of hearing me talk about it, but it's very, for me, it's very hard to watch, because you see the artist just being squeezed out, and what replaces it is just, it's just a commodity of,
Yeah.
for ultra wealthy. So,
So, just
uh,
in closing, the question that I ask everybody, because we've all been there. You probably less because you work for yourself all of the time. I probably more because I have been in corporate, then I left corporate, then I went back to corporate, and I left it again. But let's say you're advising a CEO, and the CEO is interviewing for candidates, for a high level position. And the CEO has candidates of every age, I don't know, 25, 40, 55, 60, whatever. What do you tell them about candidates who are over 55?
um, so I would compare that to, yeah, I've changed occupation so often that I've made it a point. If I meet somebody at a party, they say, "What do you do?" I'll tell them the last thing I made money on. So, um, I'll tell you, if I put that in the context of like delivering sailboats, I have to assemble. I'll be the captain. I have to assemble a crew. Um, I will take, if possible, I'll take somebody who's my age or somebody who's, a little older, like you say, maybe 55, with great experience. It has a lot of blue water miles under them. That has been through all of the ups and downs, and the steering goes lost, and pair it with a young buck who's a guy who's not afraid to go and tear down a sail in the middle of a storm, and somebody you can point at, and somebody who's young and able to do, and has a kind of energy, that can stay up all night if they need to with a problem on the boat. Or it's hard, to say that one is a clear winner versus the other, because they're both so, both energies are important to the result. um so it would be hard for me to advocate and say, absolutely. But I do think that the wisdom is something that is essential, and having the experience of having been through, different things that a younger person would not have is invaluable. So,
So that's great. Well, thank you very much, Todd. Do send me the address.
the
I'll go
I
visit when
will.
I come back from Spain. I'll go visit for sure. I love the
Thanks,
area,
Marcel. That'd be great. Yeah.
and then well, I'll definitely look forward to seeing your studio. And maybe grabbing something to eat around Little Haiti.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's do
Excellent.
it.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Marcel,
much.
for having me. I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Take care.